This is the Inner Chief Podcast, episode 392. I am your host, Greg Layton, founder of Chiefmaker and the Council of Chiefs. I believe there is a great chief in all of us, and that through listening to the stories, strategies, and techniques of great CEOs and gurus, each of you can find and leave your own legacy through your work and life. The Inner Chief Podcast is where you will learn how to think and make moves like a CEO, like a true chief. For over a decade, I've helped CEOs and senior executives around the world boldly lead change, inspire their people, and leave a legacy. On the Inner Chief Podcast, I bring these stories to life with deep diving CEO interviews, interspersed with minisodes covering key leadership challenges, so you will find your own path to greatness as an executive. G'day, Chiefs. Welcome to the Inner Chief Podcast on value creation and protection. Now, Chiefs, this is a little bit of an insight into what we cover in the mini MBA in high-performing teams. So, Chief, if you want to get involved with that, go to chiefmaker.com/mini MBA. Now, this video, if you want to see what I'm talking about throughout, you can also watch it on YouTube, and then you'll see all the slides in detail. Chief, this episode actually gets into a fair amount of detail. So if you want to skip forward at any point to the kind of organization you work for, feel free to. Just don't miss the beginning, because we talk all about why it's so important to understand what value creation and protection is all about. Today's topic is the Executive's Guide to Value Creation and Protection. In this modern world, Chiefs, I really truly believe that this topic is so important, and we are so distracted at times from the actual core role of the chief. That is to create value, to protect value, depending on the kind of organization you work for. I met a client once who was the chief operating officer for a pretty sizable kind of early learning childcare centre business. They had about, 70 or 80 centres. She had come from a listed company doing very similar things with a much larger company, and was now in a private equity-backed, mid-sized kind of childcare business. We met over a coffee one morning. She hadn't been long in the role, and I said to her, hey, what is the investment thesis? Like, what is your job here? Have the private equity partners asked you to go from 80 to 200 centres, or 80 to 100 centres, or 80 to 150? Because generally in the private equity space, you have 3 to 5 years to hit that kind of target. It's a part of what they're trying to do, to create a lot more value, to create something that they could then on-sell. Now, she didn't know the answer to that at that point. She said, I'm not 100% sure. And I said, hey, listen, you need to go back and find that out from the PE partners. You absolutely need to be across what you're building for them, because going from 80 to 100 centres in 3 to 5 years is completely different to going from 80 to 200 centres in 3 to 5 years. Understanding what the value creation number is, understanding what your sort of numerical North Star, so to speak, what is the outcome, the value you're creating, is so, so important. And here's what's most interesting. It's very different across a whole range of sectors. We see this all the time on our mini MBA and leading high performance teams. People from government agencies, not-for-profit, listed companies, private equity, privately owned businesses, all these different kinds of organizations. And we come together at one point, we talk about epic goals, we talk about vision. And what's really important is that so many leaders don't really understand exactly what it is they're trying to deliver for the organization they work for. Now, value is not always profit. Value is the outcome the organization is designed, funded, trusted, or judged to produce. In one context, it might be shareholder return, it might be service reliability, it might be public outcomes, it could be mission impact. And the more closely your own track record aligns to that, the more valuable you become. And Chief, if you don't know what the organizational value prop is or what you're trying to create or protect, then how on earth can you be delivering value to the organization you work for, building your track record and working as a true chief? So in this video, this module, we're going to be talking about exactly how to work that out. Okay. This makes you someone who has a track record aligned to the board, the shareholders, the stakeholders, the owners of the organization. In general, there's a range of common value domains, right? Financial, things like profitability, cash, returns, funding strength. Then strategic, so future earning power, market position, advantage, mission reach. Then there's operational value, reliability, quality, productivity, safety, process maturity. Then there's things like the customer value, things like trust, satisfaction, retention, outcomes for customers, right? Then there's people value domains, capability, culture, engagement scores, succession, productivity. There's risk and governance value, so compliance, audit strength, disclosure, ethics, resilience. And lastly, there's purpose and impact, social license to operate, community outcomes, public value. So I'll go through this at a high level just one more time. Financial, strategic, operational, customer, people, risk and governance, purpose and impact. These are ways you can add value or protect value in an organization. Okay? To clarify the difference between value creation and value protection. Value creation is work that produces new growth, right? This is the creation side. So any new growth in market share or sales or impact in an increase in impact, new capability, new customer outcomes, a new strategic advantage, service improvement, new assets. Assets might be infrastructure. So if you're working for a water company, it might be infrastructure, anything like that, new assets, right? All that creates value for the organization you work for, as opposed to value protection. And this might be the trust and reputation of the organization, of the brand, financial strength and stability, governance and risk control, continuity and resilience, and your assets are maintained and protected and resilient. So the highest value leaders create value and protect value. They grow the company and they create something that's solid and sustainable and will be there for a long time. That's a great chief. I've definitely seen chiefs that grow too fast and don't look after the asset that they've got, and then they end up dipping afterwards, or the next people they pass on to have to pay for the sins of the people prior. And I've seen organizations spend all their time on protecting, but they don't grow, and something goes wrong as a result. Competitor comes along, or their stakeholders eventually get tired. So the best leaders do both. They create measurable value while protecting the conditions that let the organization keep operating and growing. That is our job, Chief. Create and protect. Now, what's interesting, Chief, is you've got to read the room and understand how value is determined or what value drivers are most important for the organization you work for. So this will be different based on different environments. So for example, a leader moving from a private equity-backed business to a publicly listed enterprise must shift from an investment thesis, what we spoke about at the beginning, to an exit value lens into one that's focused on market confidence, disclosure discipline, enterprise governance. Two different kinds of value that they deliver. So what we're going to go through now, Chief, is we're going to identify the scoreboard, shape your priorities, and build the track record. Okay? Let's talk about these value models and how it's different based on different organizations. I'm going to walk through now over the next sort of 5-10 minutes the difference between publicly listed corporates, privately held business, private equity owned business, utility government owned, a government department, and a not-for-profit. Okay, we're going to go through each of those in their own right. So what is value creation and protection like in a publicly listed corporate. This is really important. I do a lot of executive retreats, takeaway boards, shareholders, executive teams, etc. And in those workshops, I always ask the head of investor relations to come and talk to all the executive in particular about what the market is saying about the business and them as a team. So much of the sentiment around a stock price is, does the market actually trust that leadership team, the people within it? So value is judged by the ability to produce reliable performance while sustaining market confidence in the future. Here's a really interesting part of working in the listed space. It's all about trust. If you miss the guidance or the budget or the forecast you've given to the market, if you miss it below, you lose trust. Here's another thing. If you miss it above, you lose trust. It makes the market think you don't know your business. So the primary value drivers are earnings quality and predictability, investor confidence and credible guidance. You say something, you deliver it. And this is what makes working in a publicly listed corporate really quite unique. There's so much attention on everything you say, and they take your word for it. And every time you don't hit the numbers or the guidance you've said, the market starts to just erode a little bit of trust. So primary value drivers, earnings quality and predictability, investor confidence and credible guidance, disciplined capital allocation, governance, disclosure and risk control, a really good strategic growth narrative and customer strength. They want to know the story about value. Who judges value? Board, CEO, ELT, shareholders, institutional investors and analysts, customers and regulators, right? Your track record of evidence is going to be things like earnings per share, EBITDA, net profit after tax, market cap, guidance achieved, etc. So in a publicly listed space, that is the role of the chief. Much more about that kind of value. If chief, we go to what is a privately held business. Now, this is different where we have maybe a family owns it. This is not private equity where you have a consortium of people giving you capital. This is someone or a family or a group of very private people own the organization you work for independently. There's no public announcement about results. All that is very private. So value is judged by alignment to owner objectives. And these might vary dramatically, right? So your owner objectives, you've got to be across what those objectives are. Normally this is strong cash generation, customer durability, and resilience beyond key individuals. It's not always the case, okay? But they're the main ones, okay? The primary value drivers, profitability and cash strength, owner preferences and long-term control, customer loyalty and reputation, professional systems and operating discipline, succession and reduced key person dependency. That last one in particular depends on the stage of growth. You will often find in privately held business, it's run by an entrepreneur or a founder, and they actually are less concerned about that. They want to maintain a lot of control over the organization. You'll often find that. Privately held businesses generally have a little bit more control with owners dipping in, particularly if they're still the CEO kind of role. And so you have to be really across their objectives and deliver for that, okay? Who judges value? Owners. The founders or the family that own it, right? That's it. Of course, you have boards, advisors, CEOs, lenders, etc. But really, the key person or people are the founders or the family that own it. So you're looking at, once again, EBITDA, NPAT, free cash flow, working capital, distributions to owners, things like this, amount of debt, how much it costs to service debt. This is really important to understand if you're in that privately held business. Okay, now we're going to go to private equity owned business. If you own or you work for a PE owned business, right? Value is judged by the pace and quality of progress against the investment thesis, right? And the ability to create a cleaner, stronger exit story. So private equity comes in, they buy a business, they have 3 to 5 years. In that 3 to 5 years, they are going to have a set of key metrics, things that will increase the overall valuation of the organisation. During that 3 to 5 years, they might not care at all about cash flow in the first couple of years. They might be thinking, we're just going to reinvest everything back in because size matters, or we're going to bolt on and add more and more organisations to this business. You have to know the investment thesis. You have to know exactly where they want to be in 3 to 5 so that you can align everything you do to that. The primary value drivers are EBITDA growth and margin expansion. That might be one. Cash conversion, working capital discipline, scalable systems and management depth. That means sustainable business, one that's easy to sell. Risk reduction, operational control, exit readiness, buyer confidence. It also might be market share, market growth, all this kind of stuff. Okay. So we're talking EBITDA margin, cash conversion, once again, synergy capture, M&A, staff churn, recurring revenue. These are really important, but to be honest, everything is written in the investment thesis. So go to that. Okay. Now let's shift out of the private sector into the public sector. So a utility or government-owned corporation. Chiefs, this is all about a dual mandate of commercial discipline and reliable public service delivery. You are delivering a critical service to the community, and it has to be done with good commercial discipline, and you have to do it in a way that is delivered well, it's safe, and it's trustworthy. Great communities and cultures, they love to trust the government and the government services that are delivered. And when that sort of trust is gone and that trust is eroded, we have big problems. So that's your job, is to create and look at the primary value drivers here: service, reliability, and safety, asset stewardship and life cycle performance, affordability and financial sustainability, regulatory confidence and compliance, public trust and major project delivery, and more commercialization of assets. Who judges the value? Government shareholder, the board, the minister or shareholding department, the regulator, customer and citizens, community and the media. This last one around community and media is big because in a private equity space or privately owned business, the community and media very often play a small role. Very important in this utility or government-owned corp. Okay? So track record or evidence is all service reliability, outages, safety, compliance, asset condition, CapEx, delivery, things like this. So utility or government-owned corp as opposed to a government department. Okay? In this situation, this could be Department of Education, it could be the tax office, it could be Department of Communities, it could be anything, right? So value in this environment is judged by the fair, effective and transparent delivery of public outcomes in line with legislation, policy intent and ministerial priorities. Are you delivering the core services, transparent, fair, effective, as much as possible? We want public outcomes and policy delivery, equity, access and service quality, stewardship of public money, governance, audit and risk maturity, and ministerial confidence and system collaboration. Who judges value? The minister, the Secretary Director General, Cabinet, central agencies, Parliament, auditors, citizens, media, and partner agencies. Our track record is outcome indicators, service timelines, things like audit results, complaints, good policy. This is a really different kind of space to anything that's in the sort of profit-making business. Okay? And that brings us to our last one, which is not-for-profit. It's our charitable space, and one that anyone's ever been on our mini MBA will know we always have not-for-profits here because we have a scholarship program for not-for-profits. So Chiefs, value is judged by the mission impact, delivered sustainably while maintaining the trust of beneficiaries, funders, donors, volunteers, and community. So we deliver the services of all the cause that we serve, we deliver those, and we maintain trust in everyone around this. If you think about the best not-for-profits, they have a lot of trust. People go to them. A lot of them have been around a long time. So the primary value drivers are measurable mission and beneficiary outcomes, donor, funder, and community trust, financial sustainability and revenue diversity, governance, reputation, and ethical strength, volunteer staff engagement and efficient delivery. Your ability to deliver those things to the organisation you work for is really important for creating a high-value not-for-profit. In this day and age, in most parts of the world, the compliance responsibility of true not-for-profits as a charitable kind of status is very hard to achieve. It's more and more difficult. So particularly that governance, reputation, ethical strength is important. Okay, who judges value? The beneficiaries, the community, the board, the CEOs, the donors and the funders, in particular government grant bodies, volunteers, staff and public. And the track record, lives impacted, outcomes achieved, return on investment, grant renewal, donor retention. These are the track record to say, hey, we're doing a great job here. So chiefs, know your scoreboard. Know your numerical North Star. How does your organisation define value? If you can't do that, how on earth are you serving the board, the shareholders, the beneficiaries, the people that you work for, the people that actually employed you? This is such an important piece. Define the value in your context, the organisation you work for. Create it, protect it, and prove it with a track record. All right, Chief, that sums it up for this week. As always, remember to stay epic. All the links and resources can be found at chiefmaker.com/392. Or just check it out on YouTube. Go to chiefmaker.com/YouTube. Now, Chief, do you want to take your game to a new level or that of your people? Our mini MBA in leading high performance teams now has the highest NPS of any mini MBA style program in Australia at 91. Why? Because when you do the program, you get immediate and tangible performance improvement. You get dedicated time working on the business as opposed to away from it. We have a practical, real-world approach where we teach frameworks that you implement in your business as we go, and then you share and learn with your peers and with me as your coach. So the cost benefit is immediate, right? The weekly coaching sessions are live and you get a chance to ask questions direct to me and of your peers, and the time management is completely achievable because you're only spending a couple of hours a week on this at max, and those 2 hours are actually working on the business. So if you want to add something that really changes your game, it helps you become a real master of transformation and change, and to inspire your people and love your job, check out chiefmaker.com/mini MBA. And if you would like to stay in touch and hear all about some of the best resources that you can find anywhere in the world to improve your performance at work, go to chiefmaker.com/subscribe. Now, Chief, if you're yet to rate the episode and subscribe, I hope you'll do so soon. It helps others see the magnificent value that the chiefs and gurus bring to their life and career. So make sure you hit subscribe on your podcast app now, give it a 5-star rating if you think it's worthy, and leave a short review about your favourite episode. Righto, Chiefs, as always, remember to stay epic.